Ayanokoji spent an entire year being the most capable person in the building. Nobody knew. The guy in the classroom next door needed everyone in the building to know he was winning. One of them is still standing at the end of the series. This video is about what one of them has that the other one doesn't, and why it's the same thing sitting between you and what you're trying to build. Because the gap between Ayanokoji and Ryuen isn't intelligence, it isn't strategy, it's something most people are carrying right now without knowing it's costing them anything. Here's the strange part. Ryuen is not stupid, he's not deluded, he knows exactly what he's doing and he's good at it. Class C runs on his system. Intimidation, visibility, everyone in the building aware that he's the one holding the levers. And for a long time, it works. Which makes what happens to him later genuinely strange, because Ryuen doesn't lose to someone who outmuscled him, or out-argued him, or built a better coalition. He loses to someone who never once let him know a game was being played. That's not a strategy difference, that's a wiring difference. Think about the last time you were working on something that mattered to you. Not the work itself, the feeling around it. Did it feel different when someone was watching? Not applauding, not rewarding, just aware that you were doing it. Because here's what's needing to be seen does that nobody talks about directly. It doesn't just affect how hard you work, it affects the decisions you make about what to work on. You start chasing the version that looks good instead of the version that actually works. The plan that can be explained right now instead of the plan that actually lands. The way Ryuen is wired runs on this. Every move is designed to be noticed. Not just to work, to be noticed, to be traced back to him. And Ayanokoji's doesn't. He's not in the room when it happens. He doesn't need to be. Now, most analysis of Ayanokoji stops here and calls this intelligence. He's smarter, so he can afford to stay hidden. That's the easy read. It's wrong. Because intelligence doesn't explain what happens to Ryuen. Ryuen is intelligent. What breaks him isn't that he's outthought. It's that the way he's built, the one that requires visibility to function, becomes a liability the moment he's operating against someone who doesn't share that requirement. His system can't find a threat that doesn't need credit. It doesn't know where to look. That's what this video is actually about. Not Ayanokoji's intelligence, not his plan, the specific thing he doesn't need, and what Ryuen's collapse tells us about the cost of needing it. He's not hiding because he's careful. He just doesn't need the thing that Ryuen can't function without. Here's what people get wrong about Ayanokoji. They say he doesn't care about recognition because he doesn't need people. He's cold. He's detached. He's operating above the normal human requirement for being seen. That's the easy explanation. And it's the wrong one. Because detachment would make him passive. And Ayanokoji is not passive. He invests in people, in outcomes, in the specific human dynamics of Class D. So the question isn't whether he cares. Oh, he cares. The question is what he specifically removed. Watch Ryuen in this scene. He's not celebrating the outcome. He's registering that the room knows the outcome was his. Those are two different things. The result matters less than the attribution. The win matters less than being seen as the one who won. His brain isn't wired to that result. It's wired to the credit. And now watch what Ayanokoji does. With the same situation, he's not there. Not because he's being strategic about optics. Because whether or not anyone connects the result to his name is structurally irrelevant to him. The result is the result, either way. This is the counter insight, and it's more specific than it sounds. Ryuen doesn't just want recognition. It's not just about something he wants. It's the thing holding the whole system up. Remove the visibility, and the system slows. Remove it completely, and the system stops. Not because Ryuen gets sad, but because every move he makes is designed to be noticed. When the threat doesn't register, he can't locate it. When he can't locate it, he can't respond to it. Ayanokoji doesn't have that requirement at all. Not he's indifferent to being seen. That framing is too soft. Every move he makes is designed to be noticed. That's not a style choice. That's how his brain decides what's worth doing. Ayanokoji's brain doesn't work that way. The requirement was never installed, or it was removed so early it left no trace. But here's the harder question, and this is what opens without answering. If Ayanokoji doesn't run on recognition, what does he run on? Because removing the fuel doesn't keep the engine going. Something has to replace it. And whatever that thing is, it's the difference between Ryuen's system and Ayanokoji's. And it's the difference between output that requires an audience and output that doesn't. That's what we haven't answered yet. Ryuen's system ran on credit. Ayanokoji runs on something else entirely. And it's not what you think it is. There's a specific moment in Classroom of the Elite where Ryuen stops functioning. Not a scene where he loses. Losing he can work with. A scene where the whole way he operates hits something it was never built for. Watch his face here. He's not angry. He's not calculating his next move. He's scanning, looking for the source of something he can feel but can't locate. His system requires a visible opponent to push against, and there isn't one. The threat is real. The damage is real. The person causing it nowhere to be found. For someone who needs to be seen to function, this isn't just a problem with a plan. It's a problem with everything. Ryuen can't respond to what he can't see, and he can't see Ayanokoji because Ayanokoji has no investment in being seen. This is what needing recognition looks like when the external structure feeding it disappears. Not a dramatic collapse, something quieter. A person who needed people watching to keep going, and now there's nobody watching. Now look at Ayanokoji in the equivalent moment. Same school, same pressure, no audience, same output. Here's what that contrast is actually telling you. And this is the part most people walk straight past. The difference between Ryuen and Ayanokoji is that one of them is stronger. It isn't that one of them feels less. Ryuen feels deeply. He needs to be seen. His investment in dominance. The specific frustration of being beaten by someone he can't locate, he feels all of it. The difference is that Ayanokoji has already answered the question Ryuen is still asking. Does it count if nobody around me knows it happened? Ryuen's answer is no. It only counts if the room registers it. And that answer makes him fragile in a way that being smart can't fix. Because the moment the room stops registering, the fuel stops flowing. Ayanokoji's answer is different, and that answer is the whole video. But before we get there, there's an argument people always make about Ayanokoji that seems to cut against everything we've just covered. Because if he genuinely doesn't need recognition, why does he invest in the people around him at all? Why does he care what happens to Horikita, to Class D? Why does any of it matter to him if outcomes don't need to come back to his name? It's a fair challenge, and the answer to it is the sharpest thing in this entire video. He cares about outcomes deeply. What he doesn't need is for the outcome to come back to him with his name attached. Those are two completely different things, and most people have never separated them. Caring about whether the thing actually works, that's what makes him effective. Needing people to know it was him, that would make Ryuen fragile. Ayanokoji has the first. He surgically removed the second. The school changed around him. The classes restructured. Ryuen's system collapsed. His didn't, because it was never running on what everyone else assumed it was running on. Here's what Ayanokoji runs on. Not discipline. Discipline is still a fight with yourself. You feel the pull toward wanting recognition, and you push it down every time. That's exhausting. That's fragile. One bad week and it stops working. Not indifference. Indifference would make him passive, and Ayanokoji is not passive. He runs his own scorecard, not anyone else's. His. And this is the specific thing most people miss, because having your own scorecard sounds simple until you understand what it actually means. His read on his own work is precise enough that by the time anyone else weighs in, he already knows. Their score doesn't tell him anything he hasn't already told himself. It's not that he ignores what other people think. It's that he's already finished thinking about it before they say anything. He's not holding anything back in that moment. There's nothing to hold back. Now, most people hear that and think, I don't have that. That's a level of self-trust I haven't built yet. That's the right read. But here's what it misses. Ayanokoji didn't start with a precise internal scorecard. He built it. The conditions he came from didn't give him confidence. They gave him a situation. No external feedback, problems presented, outcomes recorded, that made his own read the only loop available. He ran it so many times, it became the default. He started in those exact conditions. Bottom of the building, nobody watching, same execution. Not because he was built differently from everyone else, because the internal loop was already running precisely enough to work without the external one. And here's the part that actually changes something. After you finish something, before you show anyone, before you post it, before you check how it landed, write down your own read. Not how you feel about it, your actual assessment. What worked, what didn't, what you would keep, what you'd cut. Do that consistently enough and two things happen. First, your own read gets sharper. You start catching things earlier. The loop gets tighter because you're running it yourself instead of waiting for someone else to close it. Second, the gap between finishing and finding out how it landed stops feeling empty because you're doing something in it that matters more than external confirmation. You're building the capacity to know. Ryuen needed the room to know he won. Ayanokoji already knew. The goal isn't to become Ayanokoji. The goal is to stop outsourcing the one read that actually determines where you end up. The one you run on yourself. Because the moment your own read is precise enough, you don't need anyone else to know you won. You already know. Your internal scorecard is either getting sharper every day or it doesn't exist yet. Right now, it's one of those two things. If what we covered today landed, the scorecard piece specifically, there's one thing I want you to do before you close this tab. We built a free quiz that identifies your specific anime character archetype based on how you actually operate, not how you want to operate, how you currently operate. The reason it's relevant to this video specifically, Ayanokoji's scorecard isn't everyone's starting point. Your archetype tells you where your current system is actually anchored and what the most direct path looks like from there. Not from Ayanokoji's starting point, from yours. Check the link in the description. 2 minutes is all it takes. He walked in knowing what he was going to do. He walked out having done it. Nobody saw it happen. That was always enough. The title of this video is a statement, not a flex. He didn't need anyone to know he won. Not as a discipline, not as a performance, as a fact about how he was built and how you can build it too. You watch this video because some part of you already understands that the version of you waiting for someone to see it before you fully commit, that version has a ceiling, and you're done with that ceiling. Until next time, crew, under the glow of stars, we forge our future together. Captain Geo Bravo, signing off.